There's a few ways that we can get this logarithmic equation typed in our graphing calculator. By far the easiest way to do this is to use the log base button. Now, not all graphing calculators have this. In Y1, I've used the log base button to type this equation in exactly as it appears right here. If you do have log base, you'll be able to tell if you hit alpha and then the window button, you'll see right there, option 5 is this thing called log base. If you select that, it lets you go ahead and just type in exactly what you want in the base and in the parentheses right there. If you don't have that option, there is a way to type it in, and I've typed that in Y2 down here. It's a little more complicated, a little more involved, but it works. To do this, you're going to use the log button, which all of you guys have on the graphing calculator right there. To do this then, you would type in log, type in anything that's in your parentheses over here, so log of x minus 4, and then divide it by the log of whatever the base is here, so divided by log 5. Notice I closed off the parentheses because I only want that base in the bottom of the fraction, and then this plus 2 just gets typed in at the end. I've done this using something called change of base formula, which we'll take a look at in more detail at another time. But from this point, I want to look at my table first to plot some points. So go ahead and hit second table, whichever way you've had to type that in, and you'll see I have the same values in both, so these are the same equations. You see a bunch of errors. Notice that's going to be the case anytime we plug a number in 4 or less, because there was no graph over there. We said there's a vertical asymptote. Most of your points will be irrational, nasty irrational decimals, because that's just how logarithms work, but you should be able to find a couple points that are nice in there. So I plotted the points 5, 2. On my graph, and I plotted the points 9, 3 over there. And I've noted in the previous part of this video, my graph, because my base is bigger than 1, will have this basic shape to it. Notice this graph does go downwards forever, but it never touches that asymptote, and it goes forever to the right. One thing I want to point out based on the graph itself, go ahead and hit graph. And you'll see a graph that looks almost sort of like this, but you don't see that this graph does go downwards forever. It does. This is probably the most common mistake I see people make because their calculator does not graph that part. They don't either. The reason the calculator doesn't do it is because the graph is so steep over here, it doesn't have enough resolution, enough pixels to actually graph that in there. So it's kind of a major flaw one reason I hate graphing these on the calculator, but we need to be smart enough to know that because my graph does go downwards forever, the range goes to negative infinity, I need to do more than what the calculator shows me and make sure that on my sketch, this graph does go downwards forever, getting closer and closer to that asymptote.